let's talk a little bit. You've talked about the culture, and that's core to what you want to be, in integrity and not being messed with, if you will. One of the things that we want to do, part of the reason why we named this show Artists, Engineers, and Entrepreneurs is that we're looking to find the artist in the engineer and the business person in the artist, right? And oftentimes with somebody who started a company, something that can be perceived almost artistically is how they view their differentiation and their business model. Now, you touched on that briefly, right? You're going to do something different. You talked about relationships. Today, you're much larger. You're doing business all across the United States. You're doing commercial, you're doing DoD. What would you say really defines the uniqueness of your business model? Because this is a very, this is an industry that's a couple of centuries old. So how do you differentiate today?
I've had a lot of people come in on visits and tours and people that, should be, and I've asked for advice, and they've said, Doug, you need to focus on one thing. You got too many things going on. You need to do one thing and do that really well. Mm-hmm. And I get frustrated. I said, well, I do one thing. I figure out what my customer needs, and then we deliver it perfectly. Yeah. So what makes us different, and I think this is really, really important, is from the very beginning we knew that we had to be in multiple markets.
Right.
So food processing, mining, industrial, Department of Energy, commercial nuclear, we're in all of those marketplaces. And the second piece of it is when everybody was out, developing a supply chain, we went vertically integrated. So from engineering, design, electrical group, all the way down to fabrication, machining, and industrial coatings, it's all in one house.
It's all in one house.
Yeah. And what that does for us is it doesn't necessarily, we still have subcontractors that support us, but it gives us the opportunity to recover schedule.
Right.
If we can self-perform, and we have to, we pull that stuff in and get our customer back on schedule.
Bring that all vertical. So when do you remember, was that like a decision you made objectively, we're going to go vertical when everyone else is outsourcing, or did that just naturally happen?
No, that was a conscious decision to do that.
Right. So that's interesting because that's also something that is just plain and obvious in the mindset of Elon Musk and his companies. Same thing. It's when everyone else is outsourcing and building that supply chain, you cannot see in a SpaceX or a Tesla the same type of behavior. It is a very vertical and catches a lot of negativity for doing that. But it does give you control.
It does give you control. And honestly, I'm not sure that it would have been successful had we gone a different route.
Yeah. So the Idaho market, let's talk about Idaho for a second, because this is an interesting discussion. We're going a little bit off my question and answer, but I do want to ask you a couple of questions about Idaho. Idaho is, it seems like it's an area that's, it's not California, thank goodness, right? But it's also not Wyoming, where it's focused on one industry, even though Idaho's known for potatoes, right? But there's a lot of industries. When you look at Idaho, first the obvious question. Here you are, you've built this large company, and forgive me, but I have to point this out. You did this, you employ a bunch of engineers. You're in a very technically centric industry. You know where I'm going with this. You didn't go to college.
No, I didn't.
So here's the question. This is fascinating. I have 4 kids. I'm asking myself the question. You sit with your kids today and they say, Dad, I want to do what you did. Does getting a college education necessarily play into that game plan today in your mind? Is it necessary?
I think it helps. I spent more time explaining why I don't have a degree than it would have taken to get one.
Does anybody care anymore when you talk to people, though? Honestly.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
After the company was doing well, my father said, why don't you take some time and go back and get your degree? It clearly was important to him.
Right.
And he wasn't too happy with my response because I said, well, if I needed a degree, I'd just hire 3 more.
That is right there. That is a statement of profundity that needs to be repeated. Say that one more time.
So if I needed another engineering degree, I'd just go hire it.
That is something we need to remember, is that that's the beauty of the entrepreneur, is that instead of spending the debt in the 6 years, you just create the engine to employ them. I don't think that gets enough press. You know, when we sit here and have this discussion, I wish that we had the blessing for you and I to sit and have a drink with Mike Rowe. Are you familiar with Mike Rowe?
I am, yeah.
Right? And what he's doing with Mike Rowe works. It seems like what you're doing is so coherently aligned with the ethos of what he's trying to do in the trades and the skills and what you're teaching and the value in that work, that I don't think that gets near enough credit in today's market. Getting the college education just sucks all the air out of the room as far as what we tell our kids. And yet you sit here as an example that is quite counter.
Well, I really don't think that the college experience helps. I mean, it might for some, but you know, if you're going to be successful, you have to have specialized knowledge.
Right.
So you either learn it in school, college.
Right.
You can rent it, you can buy it, you can hire it, but that doesn't require you to go to college.
Right.
So, you know, if you have the right life experiences and you have that burning desire to figure it out, and you're not afraid of making mistakes, then I'd skip school.
You ever thought what needs to happen, either, you know, in a more general sense, or what people like yourself, myself, can be doing to share that burning fire more? To you know, create more desire to build and create instead of get a good job? You ever thought about that?
I've thought about it a lot. I don't know. I'm not sure that you can train a burning desire, right? I think it's something that you either have or you don't. And then, and you know, you have to have an enormous stomach for risk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our family, we started out in a 14 by 70 mobile home.
Yep.
Wasn't that bad.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
So if you lost everything tomorrow, would you be okay?
There's another single wide out there somewhere.
Yeah, you just start over.
Right. Yeah, you know, though, it seems like we overblow the risk, because that fact right there says, well, maybe we should look at that startup risk in its proper light. And the other thing from a benefit is that you started younger, right? Which is the right time to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Had you had your daughters and they were, you know, and they're much older, it might have been the risk equation may have looked a little different.
I don't know. We started the company with 32 years old.
Yeah.
Not a lot of credibility for 32.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
That's a hard thing to do.
How'd you overcome that? Not a lot of credibility. You're hung a shingle.
Deliver.
Yeah.
Don't let them down.
Don't let them down.
So, I mean, go back to your question on the school.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to discourage people from doing that, but you know, I would discourage them from getting a perfect 4.0.
Right.
Because when somebody sends me a transcript and they have perfect grades, that tells me they don't have any social skills.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I get one that's a 2.0, that means that they should be in sales.
Yeah. 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 And there's value in that.
There is.
There's huge value.
But just remember, it's not the document, it's can you do the work.
Right.
So, you know, you have those credentials, and that's important, and that might help you get a little bit more money.
Right.
But in the end, whoever you're working for, if you're working for yourself, you have to be able to perform.
So you'd mentioned earlier that some of the more character building stages in your career had to do with hiring the right people. How challenging is that today in Idaho, where you're at? Finding the right people, the right talent. How do you recognize in the interview that they will do the work versus they're selling you on doing the right work? Things of that sort.
I think you just got to look, you know, at their experience that they've had, and what we're looking for is somebody that has the aptitude,
Right.
you know, and has a work ethic. You know, one of our secrets, I think, to being successful is that we are in Idaho. Some of our highest performers, they grew up on a farm or a ranch, and they know how to work. You know,
I always look for the person that their resume talks about all their education, but in the grow up part, there's something about helped family in their business. That was just like not sure I even need to interview them too deep. If they have that experience, there is some ethics and backbone there that are beat into them at an early age, so to speak.
Early.